In the Second Age of Middle-earth, a grand deception was forged in fire and magic. 20 rings of power were made, instruments of a Dark Lord's ambition to dominate all the free peoples of the world. We know the verse by heart. 3 rings for the elven kings, 7 for the Dwarf-lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal men doomed to die. While the tales of the elven rings and the 9 given to men are legendary, the story of the 7 given to the dwarves is shrouded in mystery, greed, and dragonfire. What truly became of these powerful, cursed artifacts? To understand the fate of the 7, we must first understand Sauron's plan. The Dark Lord appeared in a fair guise, calling himself Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. He aided the elven smiths of Eregion, led by the master craftsman Celebrimbor. Together they forged 19 rings, but in secret, Sauron forged a master ring in the fires of Mount Doom, the one ring to control all others. When Sauron put on the one, the elves became aware of his treachery and took theirs off, hiding the 3 most powerful. Enraged, Sauron waged war, reclaiming the other 16 rings. His plan to enslave the elves had failed, so he pivoted. He would distribute these rings to the other powerful races, men and dwarves. 9 he gave to men. Their ambition and mortality made them easy prey. They fell, one by one, becoming the Nazgul, shadows bound to his will. But the dwarves, they were a different matter entirely. To understand their resistance, we must go back to their creation. The dwarves were made by the Vala Aule the smith, before the elves had even awoken. While Ilúvatar, the One, gave them true life, he preserved Aule's design, a people made to be tough, stubborn, and unbendable, able to withstand the darkness of the world. Their minds were private, their wills like mountain stone. The rings could not turn them into wraiths. Sauron's primary goal, total control, had failed once again. However, the rings were not without effect. They did not enslave the dwarves, but they inflamed what was already there. The ring's magic was subtle. It didn't create wealth from nothing, but it gave the wearer an uncanny ability to find precious metals and the drive to make their ventures succeed. They amplified their natural desires, stoking the fires of their hearts into a raging inferno known as the dragon sickness. Each of the 7 rings became the foundation of a great hoard, one for each of the 7 houses of the dwarves. But the curse of greed did not manifest identically in all of them. The most renowned ring belonged to the House of Durin, the Longbeards. This was the ring that fueled the glory of Khazad-dûm, bringing forth mithril and gold in unimaginable quantities. For this house, the ring's gift was monumental success, but its curse was attracting monumental evil. First the Balrog, and later, the dragon Smaug. For the Firebeards and Broadbeams in the Blue Mountains, their rings likely fueled a different kind of desire, a longing to reclaim their ancient glory. Having seen their great cities of Nogrod and Belagost ruined in the War of Wrath, their greed was likely tinged with bitterness and a desperate ambition to rebuild, making them masterful but jealous artisans. The 4 remaining houses, the Iron Fists, Stiffbeards, Blacklocks, and Stonefoots, dwelt in the Far East, in the mountain ranges of the Orocarni. For these isolated clans, the rings would have brought immense wealth in a harsh and hostile land. Their greed probably turned inward, manifesting as fierce secrecy, isolationism, and deep suspicion of outsiders, and perhaps even of each other. Their hoards became legendary, but they were dark and jealously guarded, unseen by elves or men of the West. But no matter how the greed was shaped, the result was often the same. Great treasure attracts great evil. The great cold drakes of the north descended upon the dwarven kingdoms in the Grey Mountains, where some of these clans had established themselves. In the bitter wars that followed, 4 of the 7 great hoards were plundered, and in the process, 4 of the 7 dwarven rings were consumed and destroyed in the searing breath of dragon fire. What of the other 3? Over the long centuries, Sauron, through spies and conquest, managed to hunt them down and reclaim them. The most famous of these was the Ring of Thrór, the last of the rings to remain in dwarven hands. After Smaug's attack, the ring belonged to Thrór's son, Thrain. On a desperate journey, Thrain was captured by Sauron's forces and taken to the fortress of Dol Guldur. It was there, in those lightless pits, that Gandalf the Grey found him. As he later recounted at the Council of Elrond, Thrain was delirious and dying, but had just enough clarity to entrust the wizard with 2 heirlooms. All he could give Gandalf was a map and a key. The key to a side door, setting in motion the Quest of Erebor. But the ring itself was gone, taken by Sauron by force. This brings us to a curious puzzle. By the time of the War of the Ring, Sauron possessed the 3 remaining rings. A shadow fell upon the gates of Erebor, and a messenger from Mordor, a Nazgul, Gandalf suspected, came to dine Ironfoot. The messenger offered him the 3 rings back, and even promised the return of the ancient dwarven realm of Moria, in exchange for an alliance and information on a certain hobbit named Baggins. Instead of giving a rash answer, Dain played for time, sending the messenger away and dispatching Glóin to Rivendell to seek counsel from Elrond. It was a move that showed great wisdom, proving the dwarves were not entirely lost to the pride the rings had once fostered. Dain and the dwarves of Erebor refused the offer. Their final fate, then, was sealed with that of their master. The 3 rings remained in Sauron's possession, locked away in his dark tower of Barad-dûr. When Frodo destroyed the One Ring, all of Sauron's power was unmade. The foundations of Barad-dûr crumbled to dust. The 3 remaining dwarven rings were either physically destroyed in the cataclysm, or, at the very least, were stripped of all their magic, becoming nothing more than simple, powerless trinkets. And so, the story of the 7 rings comes to an end. In an ironic twist, while the rings failed to bring the dwarves under Sauron's direct command, the evil they wrought, the dragon sickness, the fall of kingdoms, the wars sparked by greed, still served his ultimate purpose: to weaken and divide the free peoples of Middle-earth. It was a tale not of enslavement, but of a different kind of corruption, a curse of gold and fire, a lesson in how even the strongest wills can be warped by their own desires. This leads to a fascinating what if. What if Dain had accepted Sauron's offer? Imagine the dwarves of Erebor, armed with 3 rings of power, marching to war alongside the armies of Mordor. Would their smithing skills and unyielding nature have tipped the scales in Sauron's favor? And that brings us to our final question. If you were offered one of these rings, knowing it would bring you unimaginable wealth but also consume you with a bottomless, burning greed, would you take it? Is the treasure worth the price? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into Middle-earth's lore, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more tales from the Scarlet Reveries.